And today I am joined in the studio by Issa Nyaphaga, who is an artist and originally a cartoonist and definitely an entrepreneur of sorts, one can say.
Social entrepreneur, yes.
Social entrepreneur who hails from Douala, Cameroon, but initially grew up in the 1960s and 70s in the small village of Tikar in Nditam, in Cameroon. Issa, you're very welcome to Live on Live today.
Thank you. I'm very happy you're having me right now.
Now, Issa, among your friends, your fans, and your circle, you are very well known. But for our listeners, especially in RFI English listeners, all across the African continent and across the broadcasting zones that we hit, tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do?
I am an artist. I'm a visual artist, and I paint my body for a living. And I started making art when I was 7 years old. And I grew up in very disturbed environment because my father, Husseini, who was very religious, Muslim, did not allow me to draw any picture. But my mother, who was his first wife, because she married 3 other wives for him, loved me to make art. So at the age of 7, she just married another 4th woman for him and then took me to her village where I can create. So I grew up in Ditam, painting, drawing, and designing anything with my hand and my finger on the wall during the summer. And then she said, you have to farm for me to be able to be free to create. So I built my toy when I was a kid in that village with my friend, and I hunt, and I farm, and I fish. I did a lot of things.
So yeah, well, it sounds like you had a very much a bucolic African life. However, you were still a rebel from a very early age, even though in the division of the families there. But tell us now, you have over the years become more and more and more politically and socially active with just seeing what is actually happening around you. Now, growing up in Cameroon in the 1970s and 1980s, that also inspired you to say, well, certain things won't stand. Tell us exactly how you developed into a teenager and into a full-blown artist.
Okay, so my mom always had been my mentor and then my art teacher and then also my life coach. So what she taught me is that I don't have to grow up. If I want to be happy, I want to stay a child and play. And then every day is a gift and every day you learn. So before I was a teenager, my father wanted me to go back to the city to pursue my studies. So I went back to Douala. I was a young artist, a young activist, trying to find opportunity to create and, find a project. And then we started a newspaper called Messager Popoli. So we draw any news by cartoons, comic, and graphic novels.
And there was no problem with doing that because, cartoonists in Africa, they come under a lot of a lot of trouble with these days. But back then, it was okay to be able to do these things.
It was okay in the beginning because the society and the politician was very happy to see their portraits and see them being drawn in funny ways. And then they realized that it wasn't right it wasn't in their interest to have a cartoon because we were influencing the voters. So they changed the law in 1990. The Cameroonian government changed the law and established a censorship legal that you are allowed to go take your cartoon to a censor, to some government official who going to censor it and then regulate it for the public.
And you fell foul of that law as well, didn't you?
Yeah. The paper thought that, it's not the right thing to control information.
Sure.
Even when it was art, we couldn't stand leaving somebody else regulate what we were doing. So we fought the law. And then we end up in prison. Many of us went to prison, and I was in prison too, and I got tortured by my administration. And then that actually triggered the way I see the society. And then I did not give up on believing that, what is right for me to do, nobody can come and turn me away from that. So I went to exile in Paris for 10 years because I was doing that.
Now, tell us, was it upon you coming out of prison, with your experience of the repression maybe that you felt as an artist back in the time, you came up with this philosophical concept known as the urban way.
Yeah.
Was this something that happened after or during prison? Tell us, what is the urban way philosophy?
The urban way is the body painting I use for myself to heal my own body, because when I was tortured, I was very depressed, not knowing how I'm going to move on in life because they broke my soul. But I found out that my tribe, the Tika people, body paint themselves in the ceremony, in ritual ceremonies. So when I was in Paris, very depressed, live in an island in society where people don't talk in the morning like the Tika people do. They greet each other in the morning.
Unlike today, it's incredibly cold.
Yes. So to heal myself, to heal my soul, I use art. I started painting my body. It's the only thing that made me feel good. And I included music into the process today because when I was in prison, when you're in prison, I don't know if you're being incarcerated, but when you're in prison, you have a lot of time.
Sure.
And it's a time to know yourself. You learn a lot. So music helped me in prison to pass the challenge. So today, when I create a piece, I get a live musician playing, I paint my body, I move around, and then I translate the sound that the musician is creating and then all the vibration around me and accomplish the piece. So you can actually see the music that you hear, you see on the canvas with the color.
Indeed.
Translate.
Yeah, we can see all of those, the images of these on Nyaphaga.
That's right. That's
.com,
right. Yeah. So that's the urban way. And I can also walk through town like that because I do a water project in Africa. And in America where I live, people don't know that some people still traveling to water. You know, so to limit the way people use water in the U.S. because the Western world wastes a lot. So I walk with a bucket of water on my head, a body painted, and people tell me like, "You're a witch." I say, no, I'm trying to tell you something through my art. So that's what I do in New York and also in China. I have done that.
And it's not just your art where you're trying to hit a message home. You also just founded a radio station in your home village called Radio Taboo in Tikar.
That's right.
I've just seen, you've just sent me a photo of it and you pointed out our house. So for those of people who are watching the video, you can see that Issa's house is just up here. It's just up here. So we will have this hopefully up on our website for all our listeners to follow up on.
That's right.
But tell us about Radio Taboo. This was a project that was a long time coming. But,
That's right.
But
That's right.
Tell us exactly what it does and what you're actually reaching out for, what message you're actually trying to get out there.
Okay, so Radio Taboo is a community radio station for 1 million people in 10 languages. And then we broadcast from solar energy. And then we're off-grid. So 7 years ago, I had an idea to build a tower in Cameroon, in my village, because we don't have access to information. Even Cameroon, no information go in and nothing go out. And I think information is power. When you know something, you are able to adjust yourself or prevent yourself from diseases. And growing up as a child in this village, I saw sometime when there was a breakout diseases, I saw bodies being taken to the cemetery three a day. Three bodies a day for a long time. So that's my memory. And then if I don't change that past, I can change the future, make sure people have information. And in Cameroon, we have something called brass ironing.
Brass ironing?
Yes, you can Google that. So women
they brand themselves?
No, they put stone on by the fire and heat it up and press the chest of the own daughters. So the chest doesn't develop so men can be attracted by them and rape them.
Okay, breast burning.
Yes. So radio can solve those problems. And I think communication is a key in our society. Even when two countries have war, the middle people are the one who benefit because there's miscommunication between those two countries, you know, being at war. So if they talk, it'll be easier. So I think providing information and education through radio is an amazing thing. And also we use it to fight global terrorism, because we know it targets mostly the poorest people. And Boko Haram is in this area.
Sure.
And then we can make a difference in the life of people just by broadcasting information for them, you know, and they can receive that. And then it's the same thing I was doing with the paper when I was drawing cartoon back then. We just supplied cartoon so people can access information and education through cartoons. So it's not very different.
It's literally just reaching out there with the information that people do not have access to.
That's right.
Now, the other thing which is great to hear, and you told me about, is that this radio station is now completely solar run.
That's right.
I know about African radio stations. I've worked with many radio stations in Africa, and I've helped set up a radio station in Tanzania a few years back. The other thing is, where do you get the resources to get these things up and running? Which tree do you shake?
Okay, what I do is that I create art in the US where I live, and I put up an exhibition and information for people to come and enjoy my performance. And then those people participated in this fundraising. And I take that money at home and I look for local technicians in the city, tower builders, radio technicians, radio, hosts, and I take them to the rural area where they can train their own people. That's what we do. So we find the resources. The resources are in the country. What we don't have is the financial means. And then this radio actually right now don't have a roof. You can hear the DJ playing music when you are out of the building. You can hear him before you get there. So it's a very limited project, limited resources, to accomplish this project. And then, in most of things, we don't actually need a lot of money. You need to have faith in what you do. And then that's what we did.
And I mean, you're reaching out to,
a large amount of areas.
A large area, a million people, you say, almost.
Yes, 1 million people. And we broadcast in 8 languages.
8 languages.
Yes.
And the people who contribute, they're all volunteers.
They are volunteers, yes. They live there. They only have a little stipend because some of them need to leave their farm to go run the radio station. And also, they don't live in this village. They live in the entire area. And if you take your motorcycle and drive to the studio, we give you a time to talk to the radio and talk to your population about your community information and what you need to broadcast for. And it's not political radio, it's just local information. Sure. Because right here, we are partner of an organization called Slow Food. And then these communities use pesticide, and sometimes they can get poisoned.
Sure.
And then today, there is an organic pesticide from pepper or from other plant that you can use and be safe. So that's the information we broadcast on the radio so people can be safe, They don't have to struggle. If they have information, they know how to use it efficiently so they can live longer and better.
Absolutely.
That's what we're doing. And then we are 100 kilometers on the dead road from the first city with internet and electricity.
So you're a long way out. Which is bad.
We're a long way out. And then it was a struggle to get this project done. And I'm so happy every morning. I can't believe we're broadcasting.
You're doing it. You're getting the message out there. Yeah. Issa Nyaphaga, I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you very much for being on the program today.
Thank you very much for having me. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year
for you all. Bye-bye. Ciao.
Happy New Year.
Ciao.